ready to go. Great. Good evening. I want to welcome you all. In case you didn't see it on the agenda, we did record the meeting. The cameras directed this direction so you could see the presentation, just so you understand. We do this so we could post it. A lot of people are missing the meeting because of the pandemic. Didn't want to be here in person, and I appreciate that. It's kind of a difficult time. Welcome to the first Community Advisory Committee for Special Education of the 2021-2022 school year. I'm uncertain if we'll be meeting in person again, but we'll know when we get closer to our meeting date, which won't be until October. I am calling forth the meeting of the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education, or less of a mouthful, CACSE, at 6:10. Before our business, we have guests. Let's take the time to introduce ourselves. First, I'm going to invite our officers, because we had a new election at the end of the year last year, to stand up and introduce themselves in case you wish to have a private conversation later, and then I will invite the rest of the members and friends to introduce yourselves. If you're new, please let us know how you learned about this public meeting. I'll begin. My name's Kristen Brown, and I'm the chairperson for the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education. And, sorry. I'm a parent. I've just started working in a preschool as an aide. I'm working on my master's in special education and early education. And one of my hobbies is belly dancing. And this last year of all the sitting down with the pandemic, my knees have locked up enough and I have arthritis. And when working with an OT, I started belly dancing again, and they're pro belly dancing now. So if you ever need a hobby to help your knees and your hips or your ankles, I suggest belly dancing. All right, Alan, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Sure. I am Alan Leibovich, longtime member of the committee, and this year I am the vice chair of the committee. So I think I know almost everybody here. Parent in the district for a long time, got 2 kids here. One since kindergarten, first grade, I can't even remember anymore. He's in post-secondary, learning options. My daughter is at Pioneer High School. And my hobbies are mainly chasing after my kids, and to stay in shape for that, I do running and cycling and triathlons.
And he collects Star Wars stuff.
Oh, collects what?
He collects Star Wars stuff and mom stuff.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Katie, if you want to introduce yourself then?
Sure. My name is Katie Schneider, and I am a parent of twin first graders. One of them is in the special education program at Roseland. The other one is at Roseland. And this is their first year in different classrooms, so they're very excited to not be known as the twins. And my hobby is sewing. I was sewing masks, and now that I don't have their masks, I'm sewing dog clothes. So that's
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm tempted to order. We have one more of our officers to introduce, and then we'll move on to you. Okay. Diana.
I'm Diana Lane. I've been in the CACSE, I think, since the summer. I'm this year the treasurer. I'm a speech language pathologist in front of the Unified School District in preschool, loving it. Hobbies, I have grandchildren. My children are 39 and 40, hobbies still. And I really like to do grandchildren, traveling.
Traveling.
All right.
Lovely. All right, you're eager to go. Go for it.
My name is Shayna Leovich. My name is Shayna Leovich. I am 16 years old, and I'm a junior in Pioneer High School, and my parents are my Deborah Leovich and Alan Leovich, and my hobbies are playing with my friends and playing with my dogs.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Tom, did you want to introduce yourself?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's okay.
No.
Can your mom introduce you for you? All right.
So I'm Deborah Leibovich, as Tom said, and I am mom to these two kids who are her students here at San Jose Unified. I'm also an instructional aide at Terrell Elementary School this year, and I'm hoping I'm able to stay with Terrell. I'm having some issues that I'm hoping that the district can help stand up and help me resolve some issues that we can work with.
Great, thank you. Jill, did you want to go next?
Oh, sure. I'm Jill Leonard. I heard about this through Ben, and decided to check out the group. I have an IEP double dyslexic who our homeschool is Gunderson, but we are attending Went College, so we're kind of excited to do that.
Great.
And my hobby is photography.
Oh, lovely. Wonderful. Ben?
Everybody, Ben Spielberg. I'm the Public Engagement Officer for San Jose Unified School District, and I would say one of my hobbies is fantasy baseball. I'm really obsessed with it.
All right. That's so funny. I didn't even know that there was fantasy baseball. That's really bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right.
Jose?
Hey folks, Jose Magana, you see the pronouns. Besides being a school board member, I'm a parent of kids not in the district yet. They will be a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. And in terms of hobbies, besides color coding and matching with Ben, chasing my kids, I would say meditation and mindfulness is my big thing right now to help clean and focus mind.
Wonderful. Thank you. Seth?
Hi everyone, Seth Reddy. I'm the Director of Special Education here at the district, so I'm a professional. And one of my hobbies is snow skiing. Hopefully it will do this winter.
Hopefully we get some good, we
Yeah.
need good
It was
snow.
all right last winter. Hopefully better this year. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for those introductions. It's so nice to see everyone in the same space. I do see we have a quorum. All members should have had a copy of the agenda. Did we get it to the table down here today? I didn't.
I didn't print any out because
Okay.
of the pandemic.
Oh.
I wasn't sure people's comfort levels, but we have it digitally. We can distribute
Okay.
if anyone needs a copy.
Well, it was distributed with the invitation for
Right.
tonight's meeting to members. Hopefully you had a chance to look it over. It's pretty much the agenda you see up here on the screen. So that we welcome the fruitful conversation of all voices at our meeting. Voting is limited to members of our committee. You do not need to be a parent or guardian of a student in special education to be a member. Only a majority of our members must be. If you are interested in becoming a member, your presence at tonight's meeting is a great start. We have a form for you to complete that unfortunately I didn't bring, so I'll have to email it to you. And Jill, I think I've already done that. And then we'll share that with the school board. They will formalize new members' approval. As we go through the business of approving our agenda, and invite any new guests to read the lovely lavender laminated, just I like alliteration, purpose of meeting you'll find on the tables. So we need to approve the August 23rd agenda. Are there any changes we need to make to this agenda?
Okay, so just FYI, you're still on the introduction slide.
Oh, hello. Oh, there we go. That agenda. This agenda that I thought I had up before. I'm sorry. The eyes on the back of my head stopped working when my kid went to college, I think. All right, I hear no changes, so I'll move forward. Do I have a motion from members to approve the August 23rd agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the August agenda.
Thank you, Diana. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Alan. All in members, anyone against this agenda? Just need to ask. All members in favor say aye. Aye. All right. All right, we'll move forward with this agenda. Thank you. We typically approve the minutes, but in the crunch to hold this meeting, we did not get our minutes into the district in time for translation. We will be approving the June minutes at our next meeting. Alan, could you read through the meeting norms we approved fall 2019?
2019.
Yeah.
Seems so long ago. So yeah, we try to keep to meeting norms here. They are to assume positive intentions, let one person speak at a time, speak clearly and at a moderate pace that allows translation. I don't think we need our translator tonight, but very often we do have a translator.
It still helps with math.
Keep that in mind,
Yeah.
definitely with masks. Keep an open mind and respect time limits.
Great. It's not unusual for a parent to first attend our meeting with an individual concern, hoping for us to address it. We found that we're unable to properly attend to these individual matters during our meeting, but would like to know your concern and to address it. Any CCSC members who are willing to stay after to assist parents, please stand. I know that I would happily stay after. I'll include myself. Alternatively, there are half sheets near the entrance. They're also lavender because, you know, I love lovely lavender. Let's see. Please, where you could write down any of your concerns and turn that in to myself or Alan, and we'll help get it to Seth and make sure that it's attended to within the week. We will try to generalize these issues and their solutions to share at the next meeting so that privacy is respected. Whew. We open our meetings to the public and invite anyone to share comments. Please consider keeping your comments within 2 minutes and raise your hand if you have a comment you wish to share. Anyone wish to share a comment today? Go ahead, Alan.
Anybody else? Okay.
I will, then I'll go after you.
Okay. So yeah, so we do have a concern, and it's a concern that does affect our family, but I think there's probably a lot of other families who are in a similar situation, whose voices may not be heard. Maybe they don't know about the meeting, or they don't know enough to say anything. As Deborah alluded to, we're having an issue mainly with the schedule of the district, and we're actually very thankful, and maybe that was a state thing, but we're thankful that most schools went to a more regular schedule of beginning and ending for the days, but with our son, he's in post-secondary, and the problem that we're having is post-secondary ends very early in the day, and I feel that he and other students in his age group fall into a gap. You know, these students are, they graduate or they don't graduate, they get a certificate, and then due to the way that our services work in the state, these students are still within the remand of the school district until age 22 before they move over to the regional center, but it's only a half a day. And we have tried very hard to work around the schedule. We were fortunate before the pandemic that there was one program that was available for students at this age. Now we are finding there are no programs. That one program unfortunately had some issues where he couldn't attend. I hear they're on restricted time, and we have tried literally everything. Every public agency, private agency, friends, family, neighborhood, and we have been unable to find anywhere for him to go. We'd rather that there be a program. I've actually been trying to see if we can set something up. You know, I've talked to the schools, I've talked to the regional center. Unfortunately, the biggest issue is people because of the pandemic. And so even though we've tried very hard, for Deborah to continue her career with the school district, we changed. She actually moved to the school district to try to make our schedules link up, but we're having a very difficult time with that. And I know we've heard from at least one other parent in that program, and I'm sure there are other parents in the same situation. So I'd say it's a universal concern for students that are in this particular area where they only have a very short day and just nothing to do in the afternoons.
Thank you. I recall you bringing that up in the spring, and it's a concern too. So
Yes.
It's definitely
I'd say it's worse now because of the pandemic. There's less,
staffing.
there's even
outside.
less people.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up that it was we're having a rough start this year, right? There's been a lot of miscommunication. We really wanted to wait until September. Apparently the calendar was set before we had any input, which has not been the way it's always been, but it was for this year. So it's, I'm hoping, when we did discuss with Seth this coming year, we talked about some of the meetings being still remote and some being in person. I think given the momentum of how things are, I would hope that we would consider moving back to virtual for a while until things really clear up again. It's a lot to ask of our families to come here, and it's not unusual for families with children in special education to also have a medically fragile situation at home. And, we have a few members that can come today because of that. So I just want to be considerate of all of our members moving forward. The other issue I'm hearing across statewide is, you know what, I'm bringing that up at another time, so I'll on that. Okay, any other public comments? All right. Just real quick, our mission statement we wrote a couple of years ago, the mission of the Community Advisory Committee of Special Education with support from the Special Education Local Plan Area, our SELPA, and an advisory role to the LEAs is to improve outcomes for all students with disabilities through an inclusive and equitable approach by supporting needs-based learning, promoting equal opportunities and individualized education in their most appropriate environment. And so I put this mission up because I want to make sure that we're touching upon it at each and every meeting. All right, we're moving on to announcements and reports. I see we have a few people on this list that are absent. So Seth, I don't know if Veronica Lara shared anything with you, but I did see that there's a meeting this Wednesday evening that she's running for all the community committees, but I'm in another committee that with my school site and can't attend. So I don't know if she's doing it all or if we were to be involved in any way.
I don't know, she sent me an email just a little bit ago saying she wasn't going to come, but she didn't provide
Any information, anything she wanted you to say? Okay, fantastic.
So I'm happy to follow up with her about that.
Okay,
Meeting
well,
on Wednesday, you said?
yeah, it's a 6 o'clock meeting. I mean, I could be there at the very beginning if she wanted anything about the CACSE, but,
I'll check in with her.
okay. All right, Seth, I know you're doing a report later, but were there some additional things you wanted to say at this point?
No, not much, start of the school year, just getting everything up and running, so, just the usual,
Okay.
getting, everything situated for the first couple weeks of school, so nothing too much to report, we'll talk about, my presentation,
Okay.
more things, but, no, nothing in particular.
Okay. I know I got a letter that there wasn't staffing to do my son's supports. So is
Yeah.
that part of what you're touching upon tonight?
I wasn't going to, I was gonna talk about our programs, like
Okay.
we had discussed. But yeah, I think, Associate Superintendent Bejarano will probably share an update with the board. But yeah, we are 2 speech language pathologists short. We had 2 folks, I don't know if walk off the job is the right thing, because they did it virtually, but just say, I'm actually not coming. Which is, I think, economy-wide, that's not, uncommon. So yeah, so we're looking to fill both of those.
Okay.
That's the big one.
All right. So those are the only holes we have? That's pretty good.
No, they're more,
Oh.
I'll let Dominic, because the way HR does it, I don't want to say anything that's not factually accurate. They have a different accounting for how they report. Not a different one, I just want to make sure that I let them report on the teaching vacancies.
Okay, and that will be at the board meeting this Thursday?
Dominic always gives an update about the number of open positions we have, not just in special education, but in other areas as well.
Okay. All right. And Leo Mapagu tries to make these meetings. I didn't get a notice that he wasn't coming tonight, but I did get the future dates to him, so hopefully he'll make one of these meetings. They are teaching a class through the SELPA. It's during the daytime. It's on ADR. It might start this week, shoot. I didn't put it in my calendar because it was during my work day. But he said that he would look into repeating this class in the evening time if other people have work schedule issues. And so hopefully that will be an option. A lot of funding came through for ADR. I just want to say I learned a lot about Leo's job last spring when we were at Legislative Day for the state, because I was impressed at how much he went to bat for funding for ADR before the state started and federal funding started to put more money into ADR. So he's definitely out there fighting for our needs, and it's nice to know, and I'm glad to see that he's starting the momentum of educating families about ADR is Alternative Dispute Resolution. Anytime you hear me say an acronym you don't know, just shoot up your hand. Because I try not to do that, but sometimes it just happens. I get used to that lingo. All right, Jose, did you have anything you wanted to share with us?
Yes, hey folks, nice to see all of you. We do have a board meeting this upcoming Thursday, so just remember that. Also in my role as the secretary of the California Latino School Board Association, on this Thursday from 1 to 2:30, 1 to 2:30, we're having an event called Meeting the Mental Health Needs of Latinx Students that's hosted by, I think, a school district and their leadership in Auburn as well, Auburn Unified School District, and some of the practices that they use there. So if folks are interested, you can happily send a link over. But that's it this one, at this moment.
Sorry, I missed what day that's happening.
The same day as the board meeting. So
Okay,
Thursday,
Thursday.
August 26th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. And it's in the middle of the day.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, so subcommittees, we haven't really gotten those rolling yet. Oh, so I didn't have any slides for them. But I did want to comment a little bit on the legislative subcommittee. We had a lot of funding to recover from COVID-19. There's 39 million is coming to San Jose Unified. What I'm not clear on is how much of that is special education, and out of the special education funding, how much is tied up into ADR because of changes in legislation. I have mixed feelings about ADR. The proof will be in the pudding, but I am uncertain there has been much collection of data on due process and mediation, so it'll be interesting to see if this is actually proves to be beneficial. It has worked well where it has been active, so I'm excited that we're trying this in our county. ADR is alternative dispute resolution, is also to provide education, and Leo noted that upcoming program. Well, I thought he would note it if he was here, but if you're interested in that, email the CACSE website, and I will, which is back on this slide, sjsd.cacsE, and I'll be happy to share that information with you. Sandra, who's our former secretary, and I met with local Congress members this July, and I met with our state senators as a statewide effort for Council for Exceptional Children and Council of Administrative of Special Education this July, requesting funding for special education to match the purpose of the 40% in IDEA. Mental health was a huge focus on funding, teacher loss as well. We were asking that they address the teacher shortage. I was surprised to learn a lot of things in this process, including that there's an organization that raises funds for gay programs in Title I schools. So I'm hoping that that's something we could connect the district with and maybe get more support for those students, because certainly we should have stronger programs like that. I was also unaware that federal funding for research in special education had been the same for years. For years, like a decade, it has been the same threshold. So we were pushing for them to double that funding. This would free up funds to finally do some research on the outcome of COVID. There was nothing there for any new research to do that. This is the time to collect that data and assess programs for our students. Our state senators Feinstein and Padilla have staff I've enjoyed connecting with, and I look forward to more opportunities to further request support for special education. There are over 1,000 items in California's list of new bills that apply to special education, and over 600 that apply to disability. Some have been approved already, some are kind of left in they're not going to really get in front of the governor list. One item I'm hearing is how students who are medically fragile and need special education supports chose independent studies, unaware that they would then not have supports. So this issue is not limited to our district, and I've already started this conversation with Cortez's office staff. Any testimonials about new issues we are seeing are helpful to his staff in formulating new bills to assist in solutions. So if you would need to share anything at any time, just let me know. I'm happy to do a soft introduction to his office staff. Other than that, I think I'm ready to pass the presentation over to the district to give feedback on the district's response to COVID-19 and our special education director to do his presentation. I just want to say our next meeting is October 11th, so I will be plenty prepared by then. Plenty of opportunities. Huh?
The Monday after the October break, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe I won't be as prepared. No. All right. Thank you, Seth. Thanks for the loan of your computer, too. Oh, shoot. on your tables. The Inclusion Collaborative is always a great resource for any families. That's housed at our Santa Clara County Office of Education. One of the resources they offer that not many people know is if you have a student or a child with behavioral issues and they're not seeming to work well with the staff there, you're concerned, you can ask the staff to invite the Inclusion Collaborative team to come in and work with them. They have great ideas, they have a great background. Sometimes we really want our teachers to have all the tools in the toolbox, they're just not there yet, and this is an opportunity for them to learn and grow. Making your voice heard, this is done by former Assembly Member Kansan Chu. If you ever wanted to take your advocacy up to the state level with legislation, this is a great informational that he put together. I miss him as our Assembly Member, he was great, but I just wanted you to have that resource if you needed it. All right, sorry Seth, I thought I was done.
No worries, I'm actually gonna turn it over to Ben.
Okay,
Yeah.
take it away.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you again so much for having me at the meeting. So this item of feedback on San Jose Unified's COVID-19 response, you guys get to be the first committee that does this, but I will be asking the same question at all of our district committee meetings over the next couple of months, just because we want to make sure that we are getting feedback from our stakeholders about our response to the pandemic and what's working well and what areas might need focus. So, we want to be able to consider it as we kind of move forward and develop any additional plans that happen over the coming year. So the prompt that we'll be asking everybody, and again, you guys get to be the first one, and I'll take notes on what you say just so that we have it as a record, is as San Jose Unified continues to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, please reflect on the strategies that have been implemented. What strategies are working well and should continue? Are there any areas that need focus? And again, this can be really any area that you want to touch on. It's totally fine.
So you're asking what worked. I feel that moving to Canvas has been helpful to the upper grades. So as I've been trying my own hand at a master's degree, I see how much technology is used at the college and university level. And I think if we really want students to be college ready, that aspect has been a missing link that I think this pandemic had forced, and it's really welcome. So I would like to keep the Canvas or whatever management system we stick with, just because it really prepares students across the board to be college and university ready, if that's in their future.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
So my kids are on the opposite end, and the distance learning for them was extremely difficult and traumatic. It was way too long, too many hours on the computer, and kind of had the opposite intended effect on them. I think after an hour online, they kind of just stopped absorbing. So I wish it had been more like some of the other districts where they did maybe an hour online and then some work at home.
No, I'll echo that concern up to the high school level. The full day online was taxing. I mean, I've never seen my boys so exhausted after a school day, whether they had their camera on or not. You know, I had one on, one off. But it was just knowing that it was constant presence that had to be there, and there was more stress about the finer details of everything they did because it was all on the computer than I've seen before from one of my kids. And then the other one just, and part of it is that they were not exposed to the learning management system that we had this year. But organizing for that was impossible for one of them. So, you know, some of those strategies of how to use the technology to be organized, I think more kids know it now, but going into last year was a challenge. And from the autism community, there's a lot of people with autism that just do not interact with screens well for learning. they cannot get through the screen. And so there needs to be a learning option for kids that fail to get through the screen. And there was, I mean, I think a lot of teachers found it challenging to see those students, to know they wanted to do something for the students, and to be told by the district they can't put packets together. So there needs to be a little more flexibility in the curriculum to adapt to an emergency situation like this. But one of the silver linings I hear that we heard last year was involving parents with their therapies that they needed, helped parents work more with their kids. And we saw, the kids that couldn't interact with their computers, they fell behind. Those that could and could work with their parents had amazing progress. So we've had this happening in our community, but I feel like the special education community is the perfect litmus for what you're seeing across the board in all the other classes, right? I mean, this was a year where every student got to experience what special education is like, right? Every family got to experience what special education is like, because suddenly they felt they had to fight for things that they didn't think they had to fight for before.
Our experience is pretty positive. Our daughter in high school, I think her teachers, both SDC and general ed, were able to adapt and just understand those issues with kids not being able to stare at a screen all day, and they weren't quite so rigorous on you must be staring at your screen for the entire duration of the class. There was early exits and self-care days, and I think some of that even continued when she went back to campus at the tail end of last semester. So I think in general on her side, I think the teachers did pretty well at just adapting and understanding the situation the kids found themselves in. For our son, it's a little different because so much of what they do in the ACE program is hands-on. So I think that was a little harder, not that it was anybody's fault, but we did have some creativity from teachers where they might give an assignment, or maybe the IA would work one-on-one, and if it was a cooking assignment or something. So we did see some there, but I think that was mainly just the sort of the parameters of that program. Because it's so hands-on, it was a little harder. In general, I think the staff came through pretty well. The biggest issues we had were just technology. Early on, it was rough, just the Canvas and WebEx setup. We had some issues with specialists, and how to switch over and log in. We had some problems. Our son's juggling 2 devices because the school Chromebook doesn't have email, and then you would get an email, or I would get an email that I would forward to him about his specialist. Then he had to jump onto his personal iPad. So we had some difficulty with that, and probably missed a few sessions because of that. But overall, I think the distance learning worked pretty well for our kids. But I would give that to the creativity of the staff.
I think some of the stuff that's technical, we are able to work through it eventually, but problems with COVID-19, if we were in a perfect world, I would have no time to come media at my school and play with the kids at the YMCA, but because it's COVID, I can't do that. He can't come on campus, it's not allowed, and there's nobody around to help relieve him off the bus. And they won't do it, he can't be left alone. And so the only obvious solution is for me to leave early enough for me to go get him. And I'm just talking to HR, and they said that they're gonna reduce my hours for full pay or take away my benefits because I'm doing what I have, what I have to do.
Right.
And it's not fair to him to leave him hanging. It's not fair for any of this, but I feel like I'm being the one punished because, I'm doing what the school district has kind of set up. If you don't change everybody's hours,
Right.
including learning options, so that they all meet at the same time, then it's going to cause a problem. And I kind of feel like, did they not think about kids like Natan that are being left stranded? Or did they just kind of look the other way and say it doesn't matter? And it hurts my feelings because we're trying to do everything we can to help them. teacher will stand up and help me make the right decisions, but if I have to take a pay cut, I'll take a pay cut. But it's kind of unfair.
Okay. Anything about the COVID response from the district last year?
Well, it's also any strategies that you think are working well and should continue, or any areas that need focus.
Yeah. I think one of the areas that should have focus is how we're handling special education students in the independent study. Because that is what I'm hearing a lot of. And it's not just this district, this is an issue statewide because of the decision that we must have any distance learner do independent study. And unfortunately, under independent study, just by its nature, you're not around your resources to have the supports you need. And so trying to figure that out, maybe Seth will have something to comment on that later, but I think that needs a little focus because there's a lot of families now saying, well, what, do I move to medical? Because if I move to medical, that's supposed to be a temporary situation and we need something more permanent for the rest of the school year. So there's a lot of questions about that and how to get things to work well for their students. I mean, at the end of last year when we had some teachers leave, I had a son of his math class not have a final because there was not a teacher there that could give a final. The last month of his math, and this is high school math, was not there. So, you know, maybe some better strategies to address, because this shortage is going to be an ongoing ongoing issue. Some strategies to work with substitutes to have curriculum more structured in a way that they could easily hand something to a substitute to then work with the students appropriately and not leave them further behind. They're behind enough in math because of the situation. We did not need them to get further behind in math. And then there's a lot of questions about summer programs. I've heard a lot of great things about summer programs, but I also heard a lot of parents reporting that their kids were just watching Disney movies in the summer programs and not a lot of learning was happening. And that expression of frustration. So I didn't hear any of it mentioned by staff at the board meeting, so that seems to be something off the radar. But it was certainly a concern I was hearing from parents. They were asking, should it be just glorified babysitting, and I was saying, absolutely not. So.
Is that ESY or all summer programs?
No, that was not ESY. This was a special ed student in general education.
As I said, I was at ESY most of the summer, I didn't see any of that.
I was gonna say, I worked summer school a lot.
Yeah.
Movies were.
That'd be a community program that was running the program on the website.
This was a student, they said it was through the district program, so.
Yeah.
Because I was asking, is that Galileo, is that,
Yeah.
no, it's a district program.
So it was gen ed.
Yes.
I just wanna make sure because you really put me in a
Yeah,
shock.
we didn't get that. Part.
I was like, oh.
Sorry, I'm glad we
No,
clarified, it wasn't ESL.
RESY has always gotten, you know, like study reviews on how much students progress,
Yeah.
so.
But I mean, with special education, you don't only hear ESY students, so.
Anybody else?
So I remember touring the schools before my kids started and just noting like how important parent volunteers are in the classrooms, and then to not be able to have volunteers seems really hard, especially with the staffing shortage. My kids didn't have reading groups, and I don't know if they'll have reading groups again this year because they don't have parent volunteers. So there must be some way to get creative, get vaccinated parents on to help with reading groups. They're like already so far behind.
Yeah, I was volunteering with Reading Partners, and we were doing our reading tutorials still with other districts. So I think the only school site that uses Reading Partners in San Jose Unified is Opera, So I think we only have one school that used reading partners, but that's an option. I know that they work more with the Title I schools. But there's, you know, their program is pretty easy. It wouldn't be hard to replicate something similar or have a reading buddies program after school. You know, there's options. It helps the kids so much to practice their reading, to be read to. Not all families have that opportunity in their own homes just because of family situation. So this is a way for the school, that the school has offered it on site that is suddenly gone during COVID. So, yeah, I agree with that.
And just like the small group reading, because they're all at different levels. So they never were able to practice at their level.
Okay.
But something that's working is that the kids are all very happy to be at school.
Yeah.
They're very happy to be back. There hasn't been an issue with like getting them to school or anything like that. They're all wearing their masks appropriately. Social distancing not happening so much, but my daughter said she tasted someone's sweat the other day just to see what it was like.
Okay.
Like, this, I mean, it's gonna happen, they're sick. I was like, that's special.
Well, thank you very much, and if you have more thoughts at the end, feel free to let me know. I don't want to cut your presentations.
Yeah, just one other thing, I noticed when we were trying to set up this meeting, we had a lot of discussions back and forth about in-person versus streaming versus hybrid, and I actually saw an article online just this week. People are upset that school board meetings are not being streamed in any way. That definitely deprives people of access. So I think there's got to be some solution around that. You know, we saw teachers all did hybrid for the last 6 weeks of last year. You know, they all had kids. I've heard reports from teachers and students. They all had some kids in the room, some kids online, and I'm failing to see why that can't happen for board meetings and committee meetings as well.
That'd be great. Yeah.
All right, well,
Okay, all set?
yeah, we'll turn it over to
All
Seth.
right. Thank you, Ben, so much. If you don't mind, I'm gonna take a quick restroom break.
Okay.
Sorry, that's all right.
That's fine. Everyone can get up and stretch. We sit all day?
Maybe 5 minutes.
All right.
We had a start stretching.
Do some belly dancing.
No.
I'm not gonna do it.
Katie, you said you're in first grade?
Yeah.
So this is our first real year in school.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In person.
So the sad thing is that there's a lot of, I'm in preschool, and there's a lot of people having to move. My students did really well. Of course, a lot of times parents are saying, right? So when we came back in person, the ones that couldn't read